So this is amazing. SF, San Diego, Brazil,
Bill, nice.
Buffalo, Northern Virginia. We have a lot of people. Oh, Michelle Herman is on.
Hey, Michelle.
Welcome. Boston, Long Island, Canada. We have so many people here. Portland, Oregon, New York City. I'm in Connecticut today. So just to let you know, I'm Erica. For those of you, I feel like we have a lot of new people here. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Erica Vervo, and I help Nomadic Matt run this whole community arm. And what we were created to do was to bring travelers together and bring them resources that inspired and educated them so that they could travel cheaper, longer, harder, like cheaper, longer, and just more, you know? And so that is what we're doing. And I'm usually based in New York City. I'm in Connecticut at the moment, and my internet is a little spotty. So I'm joined here with Leah, who helps out at a lot of these events, and she's based in California. And so if for some reason I get kicked off, Leah will chime right in to host this. And we also have Travis today. So I just wanted to, first of all, thank everyone for being here. And also, I wanted to introduce Travis, who I met at my absolute, well, at both of our absolute first travel blogging conferences 7 years ago. If you guys are travel bloggers and you've never been to a travel blogging conference or some sort of conference in this realm, highly recommend it. It's where you make all your friends, all your contacts. It's where you really get to connect with people. And that's exactly what happened. We were in Greece 7 years ago, totally befriended each other, have never met in person in life since, but like we have kept up with each other for 7 years. And this guy is insane. He went from not even working in the travel industry when I met him to literally being a freelance writer, an editor, a content creator. And he's like, bouncing all over the world. I honestly like regard him as this like very mysterious man that is just like traveling to these insane places. I don't know how he gets there. I don't know how he funds anything. I don't know what his life is, but I'm very jealous of it. So I'm very, very excited to have him here today. He is going to be teaching us about freelance writing, especially during the coronavirus. He is a very prolific writer. He just got featured in Forbes again yesterday. I'm sure he'll share about that. But he's been featured in Condé Nast Traveler, Vogue, CNN Travel, National Geographic Traveler, BBC Travel, Forbes Travel Guide, Lonely Planet, and everything else. So he's going to share with you so that I know a lot of you guys in the community are big travelers and travel writers or want to get into travel writing. So this is for you. We're so excited to have you here. I'm going to keep everyone on mute. We already have 85 participants, and so that would just go crazy if we unmuted ourselves. So if you have a question, just write the word question in the chat, and we will keep track of them, and we'll do a question and answer in about a half an hour. But without further ado, I would just love to introduce Travis, or, you know, he goes by Mr. Levius. And so he'll take it away and he'll teach us all about freelance travel writing. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you for the stellar introduction, Erica. Hello, everyone from around the world. I am Travis, aka Mr. Levius, and just really glad everyone is able to make it today for this webinar about travel writing, because it's definitely an unprecedented time right now with the travel industry. But if you look for the opportunities, there are definitely places where you can get published. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys and share my presentation. Great. Hope everyone can see this. Awesome. Okay. So the overview today, what we're going to talk about, we're going to first talk about the state of the travel publishing industry, what's changed, what hasn't changed, and then we'll get into how we're going to find the writing gigs during this time, I guess until they actually find a vaccine for everyone to obtain. And then if you are new to travel writing, we're going to start breaking down very quickly pitching tips. How do you pitch an editor? What are some strategies you can do before you even pitch an editor that will help get your email seen and hopefully get you published? Okay. So about me, well, Erica did an amazing job covering what I do and who I am, but I'm a luxury travel journalist, a content creator, and travel writing coach. I love doing things like this because I just love sharing my knowledge after being in the industry for about 5 years now. And so I've taught workshops in Chiang Mai about travel writing. I've done things in London, and I actually have a few travel writing gigs, speaking gigs in different conferences this year. So I love, and also love coaching one-on-one. So I have run a coaching business as well, getting people that have like specific questions, like really helping them go through their issues so that they can have a better travel writing career. And those are some of my sample bylines as well. So I wanted to share my quick story. So I actually wrote it down so I won't ramble. So when people ask me, so how do you get into travel writing? I tell them I kind of stumbled upon it because I was an assistant teacher in Atlanta with dreams of living in London and traveling the world. And one summer I just quit my job, packed my bags, and just tried to figure out things from there. And while I struggled, my gut feeling kept saying, start writing, start writing. And so I eventually found a freelance gig for a photography company, then restarted writing on my own blog about things to do in London. That set me up to snag a London city editor gig, though unpaid, for a popular USA food and drink website. It wasn't until months later when I realized that with all this writing experience, I can use these skills to dip into travel writing. And that's where things took off for me. Through my work as a travel journalist, I've been to more than 35 countries, and now I can't imagine not following my gut back at that private school and taking the leap towards my dreams. So the lesson here is that it doesn't matter if you don't have a journalism degree or start your career in life, later in life, if you commit to honing your writing craft, you can succeed in the travel writing industry. So now we're getting to the state of the industry, the good and the bad. I promise I won't mince any words. So this is how life was pre-coronavirus for me on my luxury press trips. This is me here in this 5-star hotel in Chiang Mai, living it up, living the life. But then coronavirus came and this is life right now. Not very ideal at the moment, but you know, we will get through and we'll be traveling again eventually. So the bad, well, there's discontinued publications. I don't know if people know, but magazines like Delta Sky, Southwest, even the Guardian's newspaper travel section last week has now been discontinued. So it's very harrowing right now. And also Lonely Planet's magazine is also shut down. Newspapers' travel sections have either held or vanished. So they don't have the budget that they used to or the space that they used to. So you won't find a lot of opportunities as much as before with newspapers. I think industry-wide, there's been budget cuts, especially in April and May. I think April and May was definitely the worst for everyone involved. I think no one in April was commissioning at that time because the industry was in a state of panic. Of course, limited press trips because pretty much not safe to do so at this point for a lot of places. There's commissioning freezes, limited travel opportunities, even if it's not just a press trip. Maybe you want to explore the world and figure out how to create a story. Probably can't do too much of that right now. And then unfortunately, if you've had an editor you worked with for a long time, you know, they're subjected to actually not working for them, you know, whether permanently or temporarily. So it seems like the mastheads and who's working where is always changing. So it's a lot going on. So I can't sugarcoat that. However, there's good things that's still happening if you know where to look. Number one is that paid opportunities still exist. paid opportunities still exist. So I want everyone to like really just to know that it's possible to still get paid even in this craziness that we're in now. And because I think a lot of people have been discouraged, I think there's less competition there than before. So maybe, you know, people were hitting up an editor like 100 people strong, and now it's probably less because people are now moved on to other things to make income. So I think there's going to be less competition than usually before. And then, of course, the ability to write from home is also great. It saves time, and there's a lot of content you can do from home anyway to make money as a writer. Editors are more available. I don't know, because most of them are at home now. And I don't think they're getting as much press releases and pitches. So I think if you were to slide into an editor's inbox compared between maybe 5 months ago, you might actually get a response. And compared to April and May, budgets have bounced back. And individual press trips are currently possible. So even though press trips as a whole have decreased, there are definitely still PRs now that are facilitating trips, even a few group trips, which I wouldn't recommend, but that's me. But they're definitely still available depending on where you are in the world. And the big thing is that you don't have to travel right now to write about travel. Especially if you're new to an industry, I think people think that if you are a travel writer, you must be traveling all the time. But no, you can write about your own backyard, you know, your own city or your own state. You can write think pieces, you can write interviews. So you getting published as a travel writer doesn't mean you have to travel. And I think being in this pandemic really makes that testament stand true that you don't have to travel to contribute to the industry. So I want to share my current assignments with you just to show you that there are still opportunities out there, and every single one of these are paid, thank God. So I'm working on a Safari Lodge profile for travel and leisure right now. I'm working on Lonely Planet Best in Travel 2021 as I'm one of the committee members that nominates certain countries and destinations. I'm writing about Nautica for Boundless, which is a motor club, members club in the UK. I'm writing about Black Americans living abroad and for Conde Nast Traveler. I'm writing about a new Utah resort called Amon-Gary for the Telegraph. And I'm writing a yacht charter story that's sailing around Scotland for Departure. So plenty busy. So there's definitely work out there if you go out and get it. So how do you exactly find these freelance writing gigs around this time, around this period? Well, I say the number one thing is Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, you need to get on Twitter. You need to live it, breathe it, because that's where the best opportunities are found, and that's where the most accurate opportunities and information for editors are found. Here are some Twitter tips. If you haven't done so, find and create a list of editors' profiles. I have a specific list of all the editors from the UK and USA, because those are the countries that I tend to write for. And so I can kind of track like what the editors are saying, what they're tweeting, because sometimes they will, let people know they're looking for freelancers for different assignments. Definitely follow the Outlet and Magazine accounts as well. So follow Conde Nast Traveler, follow Outside, because they might be sharing those same things that editors are sharing too, as far as opportunities. And follow other travel writers. Networking is a very big thing in this industry. So I think it's always great to connect and seeing what other writers are doing, and they also tend to share resources. I know I do. I love retweeting opportunities for other writers. So definitely follow me at Mr. Levius. Monitor the right hashtags. There are hashtags that freelancers use to look for opportunities. And two of those as examples would be journal requests and call for pitches. And there are dedicated freelance resource accounts, which are huge, like Freelancer Feed. And if you are a writer of color or BIPOC, Writers of Color is a great place to find opportunities for you as well, as far as writing jobs. And here's a sample call for pitches that I've seen editors put out. So if you monitor and you have like a really good following list of journalists and editors, you will see this pop up on your timeline. So at the Telegraph, and Parker was looking for people that have sailed on a certain ship, which is unfortunately that company has dissipated. And another one writes for Airbnb magazine, and they were looking for people to write essays about emotional baggage and mental health. So these are things you wouldn't really find in other places, but they're all here on Twitter. Another thing, even if you're not using Twitter to look for angle ideas, you have to research for each publication because things have changed quickly, because their content has changed, or at least a lot of the publications' content has changed drastically. So here are just a few examples of screenshots I've taken yesterday as far as what people are focusing on now. So of Outside Magazine, they really are focusing more on think pieces about more opinions, like inconsistent mask regulations in national parks are risking lives. So it's not about more so experiences outside of the state, since outside is a US-based place. It's more so about how to explore the outdoors in the United States. So you'll see things about national parks in the USA. So thought pieces, travel advice if you're trying to travel within the States. Travel and leisure, it's more newsy right now because a lot of people aren't really traveling at this point. So you might find roundups. You're going to talk about hotels that might have opened up, because yes, hotels are still opening up at this time right now. So they're looking for more newsy pieces. So if you have more, breaking news, I think that's going to help you get into a place like travel and leisure. And with CNN Travel, just specifically with their food section, it's more evergreen. There's a lot of things that doesn't really pertain to coronavirus, as far as like talking about the history of cheese or a really cool recipe that you can do. But then there's still things like scenes from reopened restaurants during coronavirus. So you find a mix of that. So it's really about analyzing what these outlets are doing, and that's going to help you figure out what you need to pitch. And other ways you can find freelancing gigs is to subscribe to freelance job board websites and newsletters like pitchwiz.com, which has been great. I think I get things in the inbox at least twice a week. And a lot of these things are free, so definitely take advantage of these things. Then there are also journalists and freelance Slack and Facebook groups. So I'll let you do your research and figure out which ones those are, but there are definitely communities where you can network and build and share and receive information. And don't be afraid to ask editors directly if they're commissioning. So if you were to follow someone on Twitter or Instagram or whatnot, you can just ask them, hi, I'm Claudia, I'm a travel writer. Are you currently commissioning? And if so, what things are you covering right now? I don't think a lot of editors would mind that. And then towards the pitching tips. There's a difference between cold pitching versus warm pitching. And the big thing in travel writing in general, as a freelance travel writer, is that relationships are key. So you really have to brush up and excel with networking, because if the editor can put a face to the name, if they feel like they can get along with you, they know who you are, then you pitching them in their inbox is going to increase your chances drastically for actually getting really a response at first, and then hopefully a commission. So it's all about warm pitching. And this is a way you can start warm pitching. It's by connecting with editors on social media. So use LinkedIn, use Instagram, and of course, above all, use Twitter. I like connecting with editors on LinkedIn because it's just very professional, and they can also take a gander at my portfolio and who I am. And Instagram is great because you can kind of stalk what the editor is doing, because sometimes you're like, well, why didn't the editor get to me? But if you look at Instagram, you can see that editor is on a press trip right now. So it's like, well, that's why they haven't taken your email. But it's also a great place to maybe comment on their Instagram stories or like their posts. It just helps to facilitate some sort of interaction before you get in their inbox. And then with Twitter, same thing, retweet, comment, like, just show the editor that you exist, that you're here, that you're interested in, that you are vested in them. And those are really great ways for you to set yourself up before you get in their inbox. But number one no-no is pitching via DM. So do not send them your pitches on Instagram and Twitter. That's definitely a surefire way for them to nix those opportunities, unless they say, and usually in their bios, that, you know, my DMs are open for pitches. But there are very few that do that. So just make sure you don't pitch. But you can say, you know, just a heads up, I've sent a pitch your way to your email. That's pretty much fine. But don't pitch via DM, guys. I don't want you getting blacklisted. And so with pitching, here's my formula. It's pretty much a set formula. Pitching is hard, and then it's not. But here's some steps you can take to make sure you have a proper pitch. Number one, introduce yourself. You know, hi, my name is this, and this, and this. You know, from this, I cover this. And then I say, when you actually do the pitch itself, is to start your pitch swinging. You want the first sentence to really grab the editor's attention, because editors are very busy and have very short attention spans, and you don't want them to be turned off or bored and delete your email. So make sure you start with an exciting or a really good hook that tells them or makes them say, tell me more. Then explain your story and state the facts. I think the more you can share details and clear story examples, the better the editor will assume that you've done your research, and that you'll be able to do your research if they commission you to produce a well-researched piece. Let them know if you can provide images, you know, whether through PR, if you're a photographer, that you actually created the images yourself. That helps them as well. And then state why you're that person. If you're pitching a Bali piece, well, did you go to Bali this past year, or were you a resident there? If you're writing a piece reporting on something, do you already have those contacts? Do you already have those contacts at the ready? So let them know, like, why you're the person for that idea. And then they need to see your work. So share relevant links in your portfolio pieces. If you are principally a blogger and you don't have bylines and non-blogging places, then I would recommend sending 2 or 3 of your best relevant and well-written blog entries, as far as, and put that in your portfolio, because editors do hire writers and bloggers based on their blog entries if it's really well written. And then close it out with you know, thank you so much and look forward to hearing from you. I'm going to show you an exact example of a pitch I did for Departures, which was just accepted yesterday. So I put in an email subject, pitch, all caps, and then after looking at the after looking at the certain titles of their own articles on Departures, I used that to make my subject title, which is Sail to Scottish Isles this summer on a vintage private yacht. And I'll give you some time to read that, but you'll see that all the points that I put in the formula, you see that here. And there's details, you know, there's a newness to it, because this is the first time ever that people can actually cruise this specific yacht in the Scottish Highlands. I say the number of cabins, you know, the details as far as like the interiors, and let them know that I actually have contacts with the yacht reps who can help create the story through sending me more information to help me create the story, and that shared in my portfolio, and then close it out with a thank you. And that allowed me to get that commission. So now I have to submit Monday this story. So yeah, so that's just an example of one pitch. So to recap, finding freelance gigs during COVID, Twitter is your secret weapon. You need to live it, breathe it. Find journalism Slack, a Facebook group to join, and there's going to be some maybe for women. Actually, there's a lot of Facebook groups for women, so you're in luck if you are, or women identifying. But there's also some for people of color as well, and some for everyone. So just find those groups. Subscribe to Freelance writing newsletters and job boards like pitchwiz.com is a really great one. And ask editors directly if they're commissioning. You know, just don't be afraid to just put yourself out there and see what their needs are. Finding current angles, monitor published stories and press releases. I didn't mention it in the presentation, but travmedia.com is a huge resource for people that are already published or you're a blogger. So if you haven't signed up, please do so, because that way you'll figure out what the industry is trying to share and sell, but also you find a lot of current travel writers publishing their stories. And so you can see, oh, this person wrote about this recently about Telegraph. This person wrote about this for Condé Nast Traveler. So this is the type of thing that the editors might be looking for. Monitor news stories for each outlet, so you know exactly what they're focusing on now, because of what they focused on in February, not what they're focusing on now. And check outlets for updated pitching guidelines or requests from an editor. And the pitching tips: follow the pitching formula and make sure the idea is relevant to the times, especially, you know, with coronavirus. There's a lot of things you can't really write about, especially for American publications. There's a lot of places we can't go. So you want to make sure that it's congruent to what's going on now. When possible, interact with an editor via social media before emailing a pitch, which is warm pitching. And a big tip, especially if you are experienced with travel writing, is referrals from other editors or staff writers are golden. So if you've done a good job working with an editor and maybe you want to write things for another department that an editor is running under, or maybe there's a parent media company, let's say for instance, I wrote for Condé Nast Traveler, and under Condé Nast, Architectural Digest is one of the places I want to write for. Don't be afraid if your editor knows that, contact Architectural Digest to put you in touch if you feel like you've got the relationship there for them to do so. So referrals are golden if you're experienced with travel writing. And so while you guys have made it, I want to give you guys a great free resource. I'm going to on Monday publish Commission During COVID, which is 10 travel publications accepting your freelance pitches right now. And I've collated this information, and it'll include a few editor email addresses, if not the addresses, the formats. You'll get the few pitching guidelines that I've seen, and also a few call for pitches. So if you really are serious about looking for writing work, then hopefully this resource will get you to that great start. And I'll put the link in the chat, but also Erica is ever so gracious enough to, she's going to be sending you that link as well via email after this. Then also, out in August, I'm going to be doing another free resource. So if you sign up for this one, you also will be in the lines for this free resource, which is 31 Do's and Don'ts of Travel Writing. Unfortunately, as I've talked to many editors, people commit a lot of don'ts. So I wanted to share those, the things that can mess up your travel writing career, and make sure that you do the things that you're supposed to do so that you can stand out and do what you need to do to get published. And so you will be getting that as well if you sign up for this one here. And then also, I am doing a travel writing group coaching program for the very first time. For the last few years, I've done one-on-one coaching. It's been great. For the last 6 months, everyone has said, like, you should raise your price because you're giving a lot of value. But instead of raising my price to $1 million, what I would love to do is to bring people in together, and we talk about their pain points and pitching and portfolio and press trips and all those great things. And that's going to come out this fall. And if you've signed up for the Commission During COVID thing, you also be getting information first as well. So I'm very excited about that. And that is all for me. Thank you guys so much. And up next is the Q&A that Erica's going to help me do. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness, Travis, that was incredible. I don't think I've seen so many people taking notes since I was in high school. Everyone's head was down and pen was like going furiously. That was so much good information. So much.
Thank you.
I do, before we even start, I want you to share like where you are and what your handle is so that people can follow you, because I know a few people were asking that. And I just wanted to make sure that they could do that immediately.
Yes. So I'm usually in London, but then life happened with coronavirus. So now I am with family in Atlanta as of March. But as far as my social media handle, you can find me at Mr. Levius. It's on my panel name here, Mr. Levius, Misterlevius. I'm on YouTube. I'm mainly on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, of course. On Facebook as well. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Travis Levius. And I'm going to put the link to that Commission During COVID resource in the chat box now. But of course, Erica is going to send you it via email as well if you want to do it that way.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Yeah, it's in your name. So if you guys need the spelling, it's right there. Awesome. And I feel like when I was introducing you, I totally forgot to say that you were in a Spike Lee movie, and we had quite a few people remind me in the chat. So do you want to just touch on that? Because that is pretty cool.
Oh man, yeah. I like to think that I'm a pretty lucky guy, but this instance I think really took the cake. So I was actually on a press trip. It was a very luxurious press trip, I must say, for a yacht company. So they flew me and a few other journalists from London to Phuket, and we were, sailing around Phuket on 2 super yachts. It's really cool. And instead of me going back to London immediately after 4 days, I'm like, I've never been in Thailand before. I've always wanted to be here. I want to spend a month here. So after that trip, I said, I'm just going to backpack around. So after that press trip ended, I was now back on like backpacker budget, but I was still at one of these like amazing resorts where I had joined a group on Facebook, and they were saying, hey, Spike Lee is coming to town in Chiang Mai and he's looking for people in this movie. I'm like, scam, fake news, this is not real. But I sat with it that day and I'm like, what if he's right, So I figured like, okay, maybe this is real. So I I cut my resort stay short and went to Chiang Mai like the very next day. And sure enough, Spike Lee and his team was there. We did a meet and greet. I was able to sign in my casting details, and that was really cool. So still no guarantee that I was going to be in the movie, but a few days later, they said, you've been hired as an extra for a movie for a day. Oh, yay, that's really great. I'm really excited about that. And then a few days later, they said, we'll also like you to be a stand-in. And a stand-in is someone that helps main actors with camera blocking and just getting your marks basically before the actor comes in and do their thing. But I'm like, well, who am I standing in for? I don't know who's 6 feet in this movie. And then I realized it was for Mr. Black Panther Chadwick Boseman. Crazy, right? So here I am. I'm thinking I'm just going to be in Thailand for a month doing my thing. And then I was in Thailand for 3 months and spending about a total of 1 or 2 months working with Spike Lee for The Five Bloods, which is out on Netflix right now. And yeah, I'll never be the same now because of that.
Oh my God. I also feel like what a good story, because I feel like it is very parallel to the freelance writing gigs that you're just like, let me try, let me put myself out there, let me see what happens. And then all of a sudden you're in Forbes. Let me connect with someone. And all of a sudden you're like selecting Lonely Planet's favorite place.
It's I have to pinch myself sometimes, Erica. Life is interesting.
Wow. Great life lesson there on the Nomadic Network. And then that's a good segue into a few people asking, how does one get involved with the Lonely Planet Selection Committee?
Oh, okay. So you would have to go through some hoops with Lonely Planet, because basically those that are on the committee are those that are licensed to be Lonely Planet guidebook authors. And so you come into it first applying to be a guidebook author. So you have to take a very, very rigorous writing test. You have to When that process, like you have to create your own pretty much mini guide and go out there and actually talk to sources and whatnot, and then, you know, put it all together for them. And then they'll look at it and say, okay, you know, you're made it, or, you know, sorry, you didn't make the test. And then you'll be in their pool of contributors. So I was able to do that last year. I applied February, I got my acceptance in March, actually while in Thailand, which is pretty cool. And that allowed me to become on that committee. So it's not easy, but it's possible. But unfortunately, Lonely Planet is halting like any sort of onboarding right now because of, you know, the industry, and they're downsizing a lot, but give it maybe a year or two and perhaps that's possible.
If that's new information to you, can you just like wave your hands? Because I had no clue how that happened. Did anybody know about that process before? No, right? Well, yeah, that is like very new information. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like a lot of people are going to apply whenever they open it.
Right.
So good thing you already have your spot.
That's right.
And then let's see, we had some questions about Slack groups. Are you at all? I know you mentioned like Twitter and all these other ways to do it, but you didn't really mention Slack groups. Is that something that you use or no?
I don't particularly use it as much. I'm apped out.
Okay.
I'm already on WhatsApp. I'm already on Telegram. So I don't use Slack groups too much, but I think the best one, especially for those working in American media, and it's actually more than a Slack group, it's like a whole ecosystem. You do have to pay for it, but I think it's worth it. It's called Study Hall. So look for Study Hall XYZ on Twitter, and it's a subscription every month, but they have databases, and writers are able to ask questions, and we kind of like, you know, crowdsource answers and whatnot. They post opportunities, and they also have a private Slack group, and I found a lot of people are in there. There's also Slack groups for journalists of color. I'm in that one as well, even though I don't participate in that too much. So there are a few out there, but I think that the big one is Study Hall, but you have to pay for their whole ecosystem first, which I think is absolutely worth it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Chanel was wondering, how do you find the right editor to pitch at a publication? Like, how do you figure out who that is?
Gotcha. There are so many ways. I like going on LinkedIn and seeing, you know, so let's say I'm looking for a Condé Nast travel editor. Sometimes you use that in your search for Twitter or your search for LinkedIn and see who comes up, and then look at their job description and then say commissions freelance writers. And so I know who commissions. The ones that tend to commission from magazines tend to not be editor-in-chiefs. They tend to be associate editors or deputy editors, sometimes senior editors. So if you're trying to pitch a big magazine, look for more of the I guess junior roles compared to the managing editor and executive editor, because they don't really commission freelancers unless they're a very small publication. When it comes to digital, you're looking for really any editor, but never a contributing editor, because they're not editors, they're just writers that have a really great, have just been writing for them for a long time. So never contributing editor. So with digital, it's going to be deputy editor, regular editor, associate editor, or even digital director. Those are also people that take pitches too.
Yeah, that's great. I know 7 years ago when I started working for Nomadic Matt, one of my very first assignments was to make a whole Twitter group with every editor in the travel space. Wow. So that we could follow all of them in one place. And I know that, you know, you speak highly of Twitter, but also that's how Matt got his start too. He just responded to an editor pitch request, and all of a sudden he was in the New York Times. And then his website broke because everybody went to his website. So it's definitely worth it. And I mean, I always think like editors are just people, right? They're not Rolodexes. They don't know every single person in the industry. They only know who they know. So you
Exactly.
just, like you said, like make yourself known, interact with them in like a real authentic way, and then they'll know you. Otherwise, how would they know you?
Exactly.
And once they know you, then they know you, right? Have
Yep.
you been asked to write like over and over again by people?
Yeah, yeah, which has been great. And that comes and goes. Sometimes I'm just too busy. I'm like, eh. But I've been tapped for assignments for Condé Nast Traveler. I've been tapped for assignments for CNN Travel. I just started writing for Sunday Times Travel magazine in the UK, and after I guess doing a really good job with my first one, they've asked me for other things that I might be able to cover. So yes, if you do nurture that relationship with editors, they can come to you where you don't have to commission. So it's really important that you make those connections.
Yeah. And if editors do come to you and they're not necessarily saying how much they're willing to pay, can you just like ask that? Is that something appropriate to do if they're coming to you?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, definitely. Ask, and especially if you know that you are a really good writer, you're going to do a really good job. Don't be afraid to negotiate. Think about your rates. If you feel like the rate that they gave you is kind of undervalues what you'd actually contribute, then don't be afraid to ask for more. But
Okay.
yeah, no editor is going to be angry that you're asking about money, because in the end, this is all business.
Yeah, that's so true. Um, then we had a question from Pero who was asking, let's say you want to be a luxury travel writer, but don't necessarily have the money to sustain that lifestyle. Is
Hmm.
there a way to break into that field without the previous experience?
Yeah, just do what I did or what I'm doing now. Like I don't have $1 million in the bank, but I specialize in luxury travel because of working with tourism boards and working with hospitality companies. So I get all my experiences through press visits, press trips. So as a writer, you're not expected to shell out $5,000 a night on the villa. Usually that's hosted by that hotel group, and then you write about it. So yes, save your money and work with BR firms to get into the luxury travel field.
And then I have a follow-up question for that. So I know that we're typically a budget travel community. I mean, there's anyone could be on this call, but um, do you find that the luxury travel community has more access to press trips or equal, or do you know if there's a difference in different kinds of like travel writing, if there's more access to like paid articles and press trips?
That's a really good question. I'm not completely sure. I would say, hmm, I would say that when it comes to outlets, unless it's like a budget travel outlet or an outdoorsy outlet, I feel like a lot of places that are covered or hotels that are covered, resorts, they tend to be upmarket or high end anyway,
Mm-hmm.
especially for those that are about luxury, like Travel and Leisure and Condé Nast Traveler. Um, yeah, but it's something I can't really say with confidence. I think budget travel definitely has its place, but um, even when I did non-luxury trips, there was still some sort of like there's places where there are more upmarket opportunities. So yeah, I can't say for sure if there's more opportunities if you're not in luxury or are.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a weird question. I was just thinking since luxury means more money, that maybe there are more press strips in that area, but I'm not sure. This is just a
Right.
curious question.
Yeah.
Um, Aldo was asking, do you think that these publications that have shut down, like the airline magazines, have any chance of coming back? I mean, this is totally a guess, but do you think
Yeah.
there's any chance?
I do for some. Yes. I think for airlines, I think it's more just about people are not flying. We need to save money. So let's just suspend it for a while. But I think absolutely when the industry bounces back, when people get the vaccines and people start flying again, they'll have the money to do so and to revive their brand. So I'm very confident that the Deltas and Southwests will return. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then Darnell was asking, are there certain times, are there certain themes that are sought by travel publications? I'm not exactly sure what that means. I thought it said times, like answer that question. So are there certain times where travel stories are more sought after? So like the fall, the summer, the winter, anything like that?
Sought after. I'd say actually the worst time to pitch stories is summertime, actually. This year is about just a bit different because no one's going anywhere. But summertime, it's like editors on their vacations and they've wrapped up a lot of stuff. I'd say fall is a really good time, not only for ideas, but also press trip opportunities, in a non-coronavirus year. I think spring and fall, because they're shoulder seasons, it's not as busy at certain places in the world. That's where you find more opportunities. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then do you have any tips for overcoming rejection?
Breathe. Know that it's not personal. It's just really about being resilient. And I'm glad that person asked a question, because you will get a lot of rejection. Even the top travel writers still don't get their email seen, or still get a no from an editor. So that's just the name of the game. It is a tough industry. It's just about knowing that, like, it's not personal. Hopefully it just makes you more strong as far as like creating better pitches, if the pitches were the problem. But just have to just continue to keep knocking on doors and, go outside, step outside, take a walk. Like, don't beat yourself up about it. I think that just having that balance of self-care and knowing that, like, it's going to be okay, but like just keep pushing, just that sort of resilient mindset will really help a lot. I'm glad a person said that, because rejection is definitely the name of the game in this industry.
Yeah. And then we had a few questions. That's so true. We had a few questions about people that have no blog, no freelance writing experience. So is there what is their first step or 2 or 3 steps into getting into freelance writing? Yeah.
First step, figure out what your niche is. What do you want to write about? What is your thing? What is your passion within the realm of travel? Is it spas? Is it outdoors? Is it luxury hotels? Is it food? Is it food from a certain region? Is it a certain state that you just love and you just kind of want to be the go-to for your state or your country? Think about your niche. And then 2, read. Read a lot, read every day, read every night, because that's what's going to make you a better writer. And you'll see, if you look at more distinguished outlets and magazines, how they write and what they don't write. Because if you see good writing, you will see that they don't talk about cliches. They don't say land of contrast, or everything's amazing, or I cannot wait to go back. So really analyze what good writing looks like, and that's going to help you become a better writer.
Wow. I'm just like zooming through this chat so fast, and I can't find the questions out of all of the compliments. So you did a really good job, and people are really loving you. I just wanted to say that. We had a question from Aldo that said, how did you actually get into luxury travel writing instead of just anything else? Like, how did you find your way there?
How did I find my way there personally?
Personally.
It was another like accident. So funny enough, once I realized that I can do travel writing, I actually funded my own way to South Africa. And that's where I started doing like travel writing work. And thanks to a friend, I was put in touch with someone that knew tourism contacts in Mozambique. So I took the bus to Mozambique, and he was able to host me in the capital of Maputo. And so at the time, I'm just a travel writer in general. I don't really have a beat per se, but because he set everything up for me. So he says, we'll put you in this hotel. It's like a mid-market hotel, but I check in and it's an executive suite.
Oh.
I'm like, what? This is crazy. And then he says, I don't know if you're interested, but there's this like 5-star beach resort in remote Mozambique where it's like all villas and stuff, and you have a butler and stuff. Like, would you want to do that? And they'll fly you via helicopter.
Oh my God.
Yes, please. So again, like it wasn't something that I was setting out to do. It just kind of happened. I think after having that taste of luxury, I'm like, yeah, I'm not stopping here now. And so that's how that became my specialty.
My God, it's like getting a first class ticket and then you never want to go into coach again.
Exactly. Yeah, it's insane. I would have been fine, like, at a 2-star hotel at that time. But, after tasting what, life can bring you, I think it's hard to step back from that.
Wow. We have a few more questions about just pitches. So Marcus is asking, can you please talk about how you decide how long a piece should be? Is that something you decide ahead of time and include in your pitch, or do you pitch it without and then the editor tells you how long it is?
Good question. I tend to do a mix of both. I think you would know the length by looking at that magazine or looking at the website and seeing the word count. So even if you have to like kind of copy and paste the text and seeing, okay, this is 800 words, and it tends to be 800 words for each piece that they do. A lot of times outlets have pitching guidelines or editorial guidelines, and they'll tell you those departments, and they'll tell you the word count. So if you can, try to research first what those pitching guidelines are, so you know that if you were to do a specific feature that's going to be 2,000 words. But yeah, I think for digital, you can count for most places being between 500 to 800 words, but you need to, of course, do your own individual research for that.
That's great. And then do you ever submit written or complete pieces to editors? Like in the pitch?
Never.
Okay.
Guys, never do that.
There you
Unless unless it's something where they explicitly say we're looking for like full manuscripts. But most freelance travel writing places do not accept that. No, you have to come with an idea, you have to come with a formal pitch, and then take it from there, because even what you send might not be exactly congruent with the angle that the editor wants for their said publication. So, which is a great thing. It's like, all you have to do is really send your idea, and then you can do the grunt work. But this time, when you do the work of producing an article, you know exactly what you need to do instead of possibly wasting your time.
Right. So perfect. We have Nadine on from the Black Travel Alliance, and she shouted it out, and she wanted you to speak about that since you're one of the founding members. Can you just tell everyone what the Black Travel Alliance is?
Yeah, sure. So the Black Travel Alliance started pretty much 1 or 2 months ago after what's been going on in the States with George Floyd and this great racial awakening that we're having. And so we saw a lot of travel brands stand up in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, which is great. But a lot of us looked around and said, well, that's not really reflected in content creators being featured on your Instagrams and opportunities and speaker lineups. So we would like, to see how you're going to actually do these changes and show that Black lives do matter in this industry. So we started out just doing a pull up for travel campaign where 3 days we asked brands, tourism boards, media outlets to come to share their plans with us publicly as well, to show what they're going to do to make our industry more inclusive. And so beyond that, we are a place where allies can come in and help us with our missions. We're a place where we can counsel travel brands and whatnot to make this industry more diverse, and also just highlight Black content creators that are doing really great work, and hopefully they can get those opportunities that maybe weren't available for them before.
There you go.
The alliance.
Yeah, I just want to give a shameless plug to next week. We have actually two events that are both about race. So actually, we have three events, but two of them are about race. So I wanted to highlight them. We have Denisha coming on, who is actually, for anyone that came to the Instagram presentation with Jeff from Chubby Diaries. It's his wife who is going to be talking about unpacking your racialized baggage when it comes to traveling. And then we have Monet and Nadine from the Black Travel Alliance on Wednesday night that are gonna tell us all about the Black Travel Alliance. So if that piqued your interest, please join us on Wednesday because that is going to be an insane, just like really great informative talk. And so I feel like, you know, whether it piqued your interest or not, please come. That's going to be really great. You guys are in the travel industry or you're travelers, and it's just good to know what's happening in the world. And so that's going to be great. We are at 1:00, but we have some other questions. So Travis is willing to stay on. If you guys can stay on, I think it's going to be like 10 more minutes. So if not, thank you for coming. I know some of you have to get back to work, but we'll just keep going. And you'll get a follow-up email anyway with the resources that Travis was talking about. So Anne is asking, how do you figure out what a good starting rate is to charge?
Good question. It's going to depend on your confidence as a writer. To start out, and that's something I wish I had known when I first started out, is negotiating and knowing what I'm worth. But you know, if you're starting out, maybe you're not like, you know, the best travel writer in the world, but you know how to pull some pieces together. It's a good question. I think when it comes to digital, I think professionals pretty much start at 50 cents per word. Like if you're a professional, like you're doing this for a living and, or, you know, just really good at what you're doing. Maybe starting out at 30 cents a word might be good, but then there are places, unfortunately, where, not unfortunately, but it's just the way it is, that it kind of just starts you out on a flat rate. So like Matador, I don't know what their rate is now, but I think it's less than $100. Culture Trip is 150, still pretty good, I think, for people starting out. So, you know, just think about, okay, if it's $150, for instance, but if they're asking for 1,500 words, then maybe that doesn't match with your rate. But if it's $150 and they're asking for 500 words, maybe you're thinking, okay, well, I can see how that matches my time and work that I put in, and that's going to be okay. So I think it's just about, you know, valuing your time and being confident in your own work and seeing what you charge from there.
Awesome. And then this question I feel like is just so relative, but how many commissioned pieces do you find you need to have to make like a livable income?
Good question.
Maybe like a range?
Yeah. Per month, maybe 7 or 8. But
Okay.
you know, if you are pitching places that pay really well, like CNN Travel pays quite well, you know, $350, $400, you know, you do 8 articles with that per month, you know, it's a pretty good rate, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you really have to be very diligent with bringing all that together and to continue pitching to make sure your next month is full as well, but it's possible.
Cool. And then Vivian is asking, how do you feel about publicists connecting you to editors to land a commission?
Hmm. I don't think I've had that experience before. I've never talked about that before. Um,
That's okay.
I don't think there's a problem with it, because in the end, it's still up to the editor to say yes or no to whatever pitch that you have. And I
Mm.
think it's just an industry thing. If we're all trying to know each other and connect, so why not a referral come from someone like a publicist in the industry, especially if you write well, you know, you're a good person, why not? But I don't think you being introduced to a PR is going to sway an editor any way. It's still
Mm.
going to be about the quality of your pitch in the end.
Right. So true. And then we have a follow-up to the quality of your pitch, Marcus has all the good questions today. I don't know where you are, Marcus, but you have a lot of good questions. He said he would love to hear you talk about your writing process once a pitch is successful. For example, how would you write the article about sailing to the Scottish Isle?
Great question. So what I like to do is I create a folder in Google, and I have two documents. One document is for all of my brain dumps and info. So I collate all of that into one. I Google the source. So if I'm talking about this yacht, I'm going to look at that yacht's website. I'm going to look at all their press releases and see what they have. Then I'm going to look at if anyone has written anything else about this destination, this yacht, this hotel or whatnot, and see the angles that they've done. And of course, not copying it, but just like seeing what they've done and how can I make this my own? Or if there's any extra information that might be out there that I can incorporate into my own. And then what I like to use is my handy dandy phone and use timers to say, okay, I'm going to use 15 minutes to bring, I actually outline first. So I say intro, I say I'm going to write about this here, here, here. And then I use timers to say I'm going to take 10 minutes to brainstorm this section, 15 minutes to brainstorm this section. And then I say, okay, and then I say 30 minutes nonstop writing after brainstorming of each section. So it's really about breaking it down by time. And I think that really helps with time management. It helps with sorting out your ideas and just getting it all done at a certain time.
That is intense. I'm very
I think it's not
inspired.
easy.
I'm very inspired. That's amazing. Wow. Great question, Marcus. Great question.
Thank you, Marcus.
And then Kathan was wondering, what are some of your favorite books? Or it could be about writing or just travel or anything.
Gotcha. Well, good. I'm glad you said anything because I tend to read self-help books. It's so funny. I think someone on this list asked me, like, how did you get so lucky? Like, is there a mindset thing that you've done? And I say yes. And the things that's really helped with my mindset is this one book called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. If anyone's heard of The Secret, this was 100 years before The Secret, and less woo-woo. And it's just about, like, you know, you are your thoughts. You know what I mean? Like if you think your life sucks, or you think you are a bad person or whatnot, then you're just going to live in a world like that. But if you think you're meant for more, you think you can achieve your dreams, then life might actually meet you halfway. And so I think I use that a lot, everything that I do. And I think that's what got me to where I am now.
Wow. You're really dropping some like life lessons on this call. So I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And then Dolores was asking, do you write as you speak or do you change your tone when you write?
All right, as I speak, do I change my tone? Guess I changed my tone, yeah. I think when I write, it depends on the publication, because if I'm writing a hotel review for the Telegraph, then I'm going to write a bit more elegantly, a little bit more, you know, with more flair. But if I'm writing something for, I don't know, CNN, like they actually have like more catchier, more like conversational type of tone. So it just depends on who I'm writing for, like my style might change.
I think it's just so great that you keep bringing this up, because I feel like one of the most annoying things is when you get a pitch and it totally doesn't fit your style of your publication. So like people that pitch Nomadic Matt about luxury travel, I'm like, did you read this blog ever? There's nothing about luxury travel,
like,
you know? So
like the creator made a book about traveling on $50 a day. Why do you think that relates to your luxury resort story? Yeah.
Exactly.
You gotta read the room.
Yeah. And it's just so, it makes it so easy. I know that we do have a bunch of guest writers, and the ones that have written for us over and over again, it's the ones that we don't like, they know our tone. They know how to write so that we don't have to like give a trillion edits. And so that is just, I love that you're hammering that home.
Yeah.
Susan was asking, can you talk about your research process? I know you have your time blocking process, but what about the research of an article?
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I tapped into that a little bit when it comes to, I'm going to research like the primary source first. Like I'm going to, if it's a hotel piece, I'm going to like look at everything there is about the hotel on their website or press release or media kit or whatnot. And then I'm going to look at what other people have done as well. What else have they written about? And if I feel like I need any more questions, then by all means, I'll dig in and ask a hotel manager or the PR and ask them questions if I feel like something is missing with the story or something's missing in my research and I need those gaps to fill. But of course, it's going to be up to you to see the content and see what you're going to need in order to fill those gaps. So I'm never afraid to also just ask people directly for extra information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that that's very key. We have another great question from Marcus. How much time do you typically have to write a piece once a pitch is accepted? Is it a similar time frame or is it always different?
I think Michelle had commented on this. Hey, Michelle, we were together on the South Africa press trip 2 years ago. And I think she's right, about 2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes a week, sometimes 2 weeks. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Then we have Romo is asking, I'm just like at the end of the list. This is just such a crazy chat. I love it when they get this full. But Romo is asking, Travis is mentioning rates in dollars. Can I get the clarification that we're talking about US dollars?
Yes, US dollars. Sorry.
That's okay. And then he had a follow-up income question saying, how do you manage your income so you don't lose too much of your money in fees, like with PayPal, international bank transfers, and stuff like that? Is there a standard in the industry?
Ooh, I don't know. And I actually am trying to figure that out now. I might even try to switch bank accounts that have less penalties for international payments. But yeah, I'm not sure. I tend to not, if they say they do PayPal, I say, can we do something else? You know, can you just do direct, checking account or whatnot? Or can we do TransferWise? So, seeing that they're open to do it, or just seeing if you can tell them, okay, because I'm going to be penalized like $10 when this transfer is made, if you can add that on top of, the payment, that will help offset the cost. Like, there's no harm in asking.
Okay, great. Then we have, Lola has two questions. One is, can you please mention some of the Facebook groups that are for travel writers of all genders? Do you know any off the top of your head?
Funny enough, I found a lot of the travel writing groups are based in the UK. I don't find a lot of them in the United States, but one of them is, and I'll type it in actually, is this UK based, but it's the Travel Writers Collective.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be more for people that are a little bit more experienced. And another UK-based one, even though it's about press trips, I do find opportunities there. And, you might find Americans in there too. It's called Press Trip Club. And that could be a good one to look for stories. And that's for everyone.
That's great. And then her second question is, do you pitch editors pre-trip? If so, how do you make it clear that although you haven't been to the destination, you can report on it properly? She said that this is an issue that she runs into often with press trips that require assignments in advance.
Yeah, I think actually most of the time I pitch stories before, pitch stories to an editor before I go on that destination. It's tricky because sometimes, and I'm sure this person knows, the itinerary that you get before you take that press trip can change when you get there. So what I like to do to kind of save face is to make sure I'm not like guaranteeing maybe a specific a specific point of interest, because we might not even be visiting it when we get there. But I can talk about that destination in general and give them examples of what, might be included. So it's just about playing it smart, of just knowing that, okay, anything in this itinerary can change at any moment, but I can kind of still give them the big picture with details without saying that I'm going to guarantee that I'm going to be writing about this specific restaurant or this specific museum. So there's a balance to it. But yeah, I think you trying to pitch editors before trips and navigating that, like, that's going to be your best bet, because I think that's how most articles are assigned, is by pitching before your trip.
Okay, great. And then Abby is wondering, do you have any mentors that you reach out to when you need help? Is that something that you utilize?
Yeah, a few times. I have this great one, Will Hyde. He's incredible. He's been in the game for probably more than 20 years, and he's based in the UK. So I talk to him sometimes, and like how to like survive as a freelancer. And the key word is copywriting. Copywriting is definitely a more lucrative and steadier gig than just regular freelance travel writing for magazines and outlets. I'd say that's my main one. I don't talk to him too much, but the person that inspired me when I was in college was a man named Esol Harris, because I had opened up a luxury magazine, and saw that this guy was writing about Russia, and I saw a photo of him in the piece, and it was a Black guy, and it just surprised me so much, because I just never thought I would see another Black man doing travel writing. And so those were seeds planted at that time back in college, when I had no idea that I would later become a luxury travel writer myself.
Wow. Have you ever written to him to tell him that?
Oh yeah, we talked now. We actually met in London, and we've met in Atlanta. So yeah, I've told him how he like pretty much changed my life subconsciously. So it's
incredible.
A very beautiful full circle moment.
That was incredible. Karina's asking, we only have a few more questions. Oh my God. Maybe a few few more questions. How would you say that you honed in your travel or your writing skills? So did you take classes, journaling, start a blog? Like, what had you actually hone in the writing side of it?
I think starting a blog definitely helped. So my writing career, I guess you can say, started in college. I wrote for a college music magazine, and I wrote like one piece for the college newspaper. But a year later, I did start my blog, and I used that and took my writing seriously. I would do interviews with people and write it as if I was published in Vogue magazine. And that just came from, reading a lot and seeing what good writing looks like, and incorporating that into my writing. So I think blogging is definitely a great practice board to it. So yeah, I think blogging, but also editor's feedback. So if you're submitting a piece to an editor and they've sent it back with edits, like really taking the time to figure out like, why did they delete that? Why did they reword this? And incorporating that into how you write in the future.
Absolutely. I feel like I've watched Nomadic Matt go through this, where like the first 2 or 3 years of his blog posts are all hidden on the website because they're terrible. And so everyone starts somewhere, and eventually you get to a different level and you just hide the stuff that you don't want people to see.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of having a blog, because you have ownership over it and you can actually do that. Or you can go back and rework it and, bring it up to your level that you're at now. So yeah, having a blog, great way to hone in those skills. Michelle Herman is asking, do you ask for free time on your press trips, where you can like specifically go out and explore on your own? Or is that not something that you do?
Yes. And that is, That is something I've always wanted to talk about, and I'll be talking about this on my YouTube videos, like about the highs and lows of about press trips and travel writing. So definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel. But the thing about being a travel writing on press trips is that you don't really get authentic gist of a place as you would just going on your own. So you asking for free time, or what I usually do is ask for a few extra days on my own, and then I, go as I please before I fly back home. That's going, any little thing like that will help you kind of get more gist of that place or that story when you can go on your own. Because on press trips, like, you're on someone else's time. 3 o'clock, you have to be here. 5 o'clock, you have to be here. But if you know that there's something beyond that itinerary that's going to really help you, illuminate your article even more, or add more depth to your article, and then absolutely you can ask. You might say no, but they tend to not deny people of delaying their flight for a few extra days, as long as you know that you're on your own. So I highly recommend that.
Awesome. And we have another question from Marcus saying that when you're on a press trip or another trip, do you take written or verbal notes? And what's your process like while you're actually on the ground visiting these places?
I tend to take a lot of pictures, actually. Take a lot of pictures. I do type. I just use my phone and just, if I feel like I don't have enough time to type, then yeah, I will do voice recordings, and I think I'm going to do that more in the future. Process, just being there, we're usually going to be around a tour guide that's going to explain things, and ask questions if you need something that you need more clarification on, and then write those down. What I love to do before the press trip is actually research everything I can before I go. So if I've already seen the itinerary, what I like to do is already have like sectionalized information for each place, so that I already know the basics. Now I'm just looking for, while I'm here, like the little extra or extra details that I can use now that I'm here in the flesh, and use that for my pieces.
That's so smart. You guys, write that down. That's so key.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even imagine coming back and just having a blank page and like forgetting to take notes because you're living in the moment. But like, if you have it already pre-written and you just have to go in and type in the little extra ooh, that's key.
Yeah.
And then we had Lola asking, what is your fee for pitching consultation, sorry.
I revealed, I do an application-based thing, and I reveal those prices to those who've applied.
Cool. And then Eleanor was wondering, when will your blog be relaunched? I guess she was on it.
Yeah. I feel so bad because it's been in relaunch mode forever, but I plan to relaunch. Give me 2 weeks, so say August. Yeah, it's just been so much that's been happening. I keep having to push it back, but I have to no, August 1st, put it out there. So give it 2 weeks where you'll see it out. I am working on it right now, but I'm a perfectionist, and I need to get out of that mindset. But yeah, it's coming very soon.
In the meantime, there's plenty of places that they can follow you, especially like subscribe to your YouTube channel, Instagram, Twitter, everything. You have it all, Mr. Levius. And you guys, I always say this, but these nomadic network events are not paid. Like, Travis is here because he wanted to teach you guys. He has a passion for this. He put together this entire presentation and the extra goodies that go with it out of the goodness of his heart, and out of reaching out to our community, you guys, and really adding that value. So the least I would love for you to do is to just follow him and stay in contact with this guy. Like I told you, I met him 7 years ago and never again. And here he is on the Nomadic Network. So it only takes one meeting, or it only takes one little connection, and who knows, maybe 7 years from now or shorter, I don't know if we'll be able to travel before that. No, I'm just kidding. You'll be on a press trip with him or something like that. You never know. Travis is incredible, so I highly recommend connecting with him in as many places as possible. And yeah, that is awesome. And I just wanted to end on, I feel like I got a lot of the questions. If I didn't
a
get
lot of
to,
questions.
I know if I didn't get to your questions, like write to Travis, and he'll answer your questions.
DMs are open.
DMs are open. If I didn't get to your question, I'm so sorry. There's literally 1,000 notes in this chat. But Raj was asking, and I'll end on this, like, what's your favorite piece you've ever written? And what's like one that stands out where you're just like, oh, that was such a happy time in my life, or that was such a article that made me so happy.
Mm. Honestly, my favorite one was the one I wrote for CNN Travel about my Spike Lee saga, because, and I think you can hint this sort of thing, but like my real mission is actually more like inspiration, personal development, and motivation. And so with me being able to talk about, Thailand and travel and whatnot, but also tie it into how to, manifest things into your life, how to follow your dreams, how to follow your gut, to be able to put that together into one place, I think was just like a really fulfilling experience to have, because that's really my end goal, is to show people what you can achieve if you just like, think the right thoughts and move in a certain way in the world. So that's probably my favorite.
I really feel like you exemplify that. So I could see why that resonates with you so much. I just oozed from you during this whole presentation, like, just take a chance. Just try it this way. Learn, try it again. Learn, try it again, And so I just want to say thank you for coming today. Thank you for sharing with us. I mean, we still have 65 people after an hour and a half of this talk, which is pretty incredible because it's the
Yeah.
middle of the day here in the Northeast. And so,
So you guys on the list are dedicated. Thank you so much for being on here. And I hope you guys got a lot out from it.
I mean, from the chat, it looks like we have. Like, raise thumbs up if you got something that you didn't know before. Just such a good presentation, such great gems. And I just want to thank you. And obviously, I always thank the community for being here, because it would be so much less fun if it were just Travis and Leah and I talking. And so it really does make a huge difference that you guys show up continually, and we really appreciate it. And as always, if you have any feedback, info@thenomadicnetwork.com. I'm open to all of it. Before we go again, I wanted to note that next Tuesday night is the Unpack Your Racial